Beyond the System by Kitsune. Chapter 1. Getting a chance to reincarnate should have been something amazing. A golden ticket, a chance to fix all the mistakes of my past life and live out some grand fantasy. But just because you've got another shot doesn't mean everything suddenly lines up like the happy ending of a fairy tale. Reality doesn't work that way. Surprisingly, I was born into this life as a girl. At first, it was disorienting, but growing up in this body made it easier to adjust than I could have ever imagined. The strangeness faded with the years, and eventually I felt like myself again. Only with softer skin, a higher voice, and far more unwanted attention. Still, if life was a roll of the dice, I got lucky. I was not dropped into someone else's body or forced to share my soul with another. I was simply reborn, a clean slate, and honestly, I turned out pretty damn striking. Snow-white hair, a color so rare it turns heads wherever I go. Bright, piercing pink eyes that practically glow under the light. Sharp features that create an image like I'd just walked out of some modeling agency's dream. I guess I should feel blessed by the genetic lottery, but in this world, being too pretty comes with curses. My parents passed away when I was still in high school. They left me the house, but not much else. Just enough money to keep me afloat until graduation. So I took the kind of job where looks could keep the lights on. Hostessing. It wasn't exactly what I'd imagined for my great second life, but rent has never cared about one's pride. This world isn't safe. It looks like Earth with modern technology, cars, fast food chains, skyscrapers, and social media. But there's one enormous difference. Awakeners and gates. At random places, shimmering portals open to other realms full of monsters. Out of those battles came Awakeners, people blessed with powers to fight back. Naturally, when I learned all that as a kid, I thought I'd awaken too. I mean, come on, I'm a reincarnator. You'd think destiny would have cut me a break, but it didn't. I was ordinary, weak, just another girl trying not to be swallowed whole by life. So here I am, walking into the Awakener, a popular restaurant bar where people fresh out of the gates come to blow off steam. Picture a fantasy version of Dave & Buster's fused with a sports bar, except the patrons carry swords, scars, and egos the size of small countries. Every girl who works here is attractive because management knows that hunters spend more when they have someone pretty smiling at them. Lucky me. I tugged my uniform skirt down and pushed through the double doors, plastering on the same polite mask I'd been perfecting for the last year. Inside, the noise was already deafening. Laughter, clinking glasses, the occasional roar of someone recounting how many monsters they'd killed that day. The air smelled like grilled meat and cheap cologne. I made my way over to my first table, 6 men crammed into one booth, their armor still bloody from whatever gate they'd just crawled out of. All 6 pairs of eyes locked onto me as I approached, their stares heavy enough to weigh down my steps. I sighed inwardly, lifting the corners of my lips, just enough to look welcoming. Hello, and welcome to the Awakener Bar and Grill. What can I get for you? The first guy grinned, the type of grin that makes your skin itch. His hair was slicked back with sweat and grease, his eyes gleaming with self-importance. Your number, he said. His buddies chuckled like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. I wanted to punch him square in the jaw. Instead, I smiled, thin and cold, repeating, "What would you like to order?" If this job had taught me one thing, it was that being cold got me better tips than fake warmth. Hunters weren't used to rejection, and for some reason, the challenge made them spend more. Fine by me. If I had to deal with leers and bad jokes, I'd at least bleed them for every dollar they're worth. Steak platter, one of them muttered, and the rest rattled off their orders. I scribbled them down quickly, ignoring the way their eyes followed me like I was prey. My smile didn't falter. As I walked away with the tray balanced against my hip, I let the mask slip just a little. I hated this. The stares, the attention, the way every man in the room seemed to think he had a chance just because he could swing a sword at monsters. This was my second life, and it still felt like I'd drawn the short stick. No powers, no gates to conquer, just a uniform and a fake smile in a bar full of drunks. But as I slid the order into the kitchen window and leaned against the counter, one thought kept repeating in my mind. If I was going to live again, I wanted it to mean something. I wanted more. "Hey, Chloe." A seductive voice called as I passed by the counter. I turned to see Amber, one of the few coworkers here I actually tolerated. Just another useless bunch of idiots I have to cater to, I muttered, rolling my eyes. Amber smirked, her lips curling into that amused look she always gave me when I started complaining. She thrived in this environment, soaking up the attention like a flower in the sun. I, on the other hand, felt like a weed stuck in a flower shop. She leaned against the counter with a lazy confidence. "You're too much. You know half these guys would kill for your number, right?" I sighed, the 10th one today. "Maybe more. Men don't do anything for me, Amber. You know that." Her grin widened. She loved teasing me about this, as if my indifference toward men were some baffling little mystery she was determined to solve. I no longer bothered repeating myself. The truth was simple. I preferred women. I always had, and I always would. Men trying to win me over with cheap lines and fat wallets felt less flattering than exhausting. I don't know how many times I've heard some idiot promise he'll protect me for the rest of my life. I added flatly, like I'm some fragile doll waiting for a knight in shining armor. "Spare me," Amber giggled, brushing her dark curls over her shoulder. "Well, while you're busy frowning at every man who looks your way, I've got some A-ranked Awakener wrapped around my finger. He'd even offered to buy me a car." I arched a brow, lips twitching into a faint smile. "And you're proud of that?" "Damn right I am," she said, eyes sparkling with mischief. I shook my head, amused despite myself. "That poor man has no idea what's coming. You're going to bleed him dry." Amber just laughed, clearly unbothered. She was a gold digger, plain and simple. We both knew it. Every other girl here probably knew it too. But I couldn't hate her for it. At least she was honest about what she wanted. She'd take a man for everything he had, then move on to the next, without missing a beat. Someday, karma was going to catch up with her. I couldn't resist reminding her of that fact. "Someday, it's going to bite you in the ass," I warned, pointing a finger at her. "Watch me," she shot back with a grin. "In a few years, I'll be living in one of those penthouses worth millions, sipping champagne while you're still scowling at drunks." I stared at her deadpan, and she burst into another fit of giggles. "You're hopeless," I muttered, exhausted by her endless chatter about men and money. She blew me a kiss and winked before grabbing her tray of drinks and strutting off toward her table. The men's eyes followed her like moths to a flame. She knew exactly how to work them, and I had to give her credit. It was a skill I never cared to master. I adjusted my uniform, grabbed the steaming plates from my own table, and headed back into the noisy din of the restaurant. My smile flicked back on, practiced and hollow, as I set the food down in front of the 6 hunters who'd been watching me since I first walked over. One of them tried to brush his hand against mine when I placed his plate down. I pulled away smoothly, pretending not to notice. Another asked if I was single. A third leaned back in his chair and murmured something obscene under his breath. I ignored it all. Just another night, just another table. "Enjoy your meals," I said, voice clipped, before turning on my heel and heading back toward the counter. My sigh escaped before I could stop it. That was number 11, maybe 12. I was losing track. This happened every night. On average, no less than 20 men asked for my number, and those were just the ones bold enough to say it out loud. Twice as many tried to flirt or angle for my attention in other ways. As a man in my last life, I'd been terrified of rejection. I never took the step, never confessed, never risked the sting of failure. And here I was, reborn, stuck on the other side of the equation, shooing away suitors constantly. Oh, the irony. If the old me could see this, he'd probably choke on his drink. Annoying didn't even begin to cover it. I leaned against the counter for a moment, resting my tray on my hip, watching Amber toss her hair and laugh at some hunter's joke like it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. She thrived on the game, while I felt suffocated by it. Sometimes I wondered if fate had a sense of humor. Reincarnated into a new world, in a body that turned heads everywhere I went, only to be powerless in a place where power meant everything. No awakening, no system, no strength. Just a uniform and a smile I didn't mean to give. Second chance at life, I muttered under my breath. What a joke. But even as I said it, I felt the same tug inside that I'd been carrying for years. A yearning, a desperate itch to change my fate.